We have the conclusion to Batman's Fear State, we have Superman's Kiss, we have the Nice House on the Lake, and we have the continuation of the Dark Ages. All this and much, much more on this week's episode of After the Poll. Hey, all my webheads out there, welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. And fans, I am your host, Mike Spider Slayer, always helping you make decisions on what comic books to buy. And today, guys, I'm bringing you another episode of After the Poll. That's right, guys. This is the series where each and every week I take some of my most highly anticipated comic books of the week and see if they live up to the hype. And hopefully it helps make decisions on if you guys should buy these comics if you did not go to that comic book store yet. So, guys, before we get started, if you just want to help support Comic Book Corner 2.0 and become a member of the channel, guys, just go ahead and hit that join button right there on my home screen, and it gives you, the viewers, some extra perks. So, guys, let's get started with this week's episode. So, the first book that we're going to talk about is from Sigma Comics. This is called Here Comes Calico. This is issue 3. Now, if you guys never heard of this book before, like I said, this is done by Sigma Comics. I did read the first 2 issues of this. Issue 3 came in the mail. I wanted to read it and kind of put this book out there for you guys to let you know that this does exist. You can go on to sigmacomics.com, and this is a great book. If you love animals as much as I do, and you guys know that based off of Stray Dogs and Primordial and books like that, you're going to really love for what this book stands for. And this book is against animal cruelty, and you get to see that in this book. It's actually very, it could be very gory for people, might want to see certain things that happen in this book. But this was a really cool issue as you get to see our crime fighter go against this dog rings that happen, where we get to see illegal gambling and animals get killed and whatnot. And it was interesting to see also in this particular issue where the writer is a former boxer, and you get to see a lot of boxing references, and you can tell he knows his stuff because as he's practicing in the ring against other fighters or whatnot, he's like, oh, you gotta stay sharp, and you gotta keep your gloves up and things like that. It was really cool to read that, and he's kind of going back to his roots because, again, he was a professional boxer. Again, the characters are pretty cool in this book. I really enjoyed the artwork, and what gives it an old school feel is like on newspaper print, and that's what kind of keeps the cost low on this book. This is a $2.99 book. Again, if you want to check out Here Comes Calico, it's definitely an entertaining read. It definitely supports a cost. Issue 3, sigmacomics.com. It's on to book number 2, and we're going to be talking about Radio Apocalypse issue 1. Now, didn't give this note before, but there is spoilers in these reviews now that we're hitting in the main books here. If you guys have not read your books, which I know maybe probably a lot of you haven't yet because of delays this week, go ahead, read your books, come back to this video when you're done so you can put in your comments down below. So Radio Apocalypse is done by Vault. I'm always looking for that next great apocalyptic book like Dark Ages, right? And Walking Dead, for instance. And Vault has done pretty good stuff. So I'm like, all right, let's check out Radio Apocalypse, right? And oh my gosh, this book was just a mess. I did not like this book whatsoever. The artwork in this book, there was nothing immersive for me. It was like psychedelic colors, kind of reminds you of something from the 70s. Did not enjoy anything with characters' facial expressions. Like, there's a facial expression right there. The girl's all raggedy, she's beat up. I don't know. I could not get into the artwork. It was definitely disappointing. What was this book about? Well, the story was disappointing as well, and I just could not get into it. It's about these 2 girls that are trying to find this safe place in Bakerstown. One girl's injured, the other one's fine. The other girl says, leave me behind, come back for me since you're close. And she really can't come back for her because she goes, and when it's sunset and they close the gates and, we can't go back out there or we risk losing our lives. And the next thing you find out is that the girl that was left behind winds up dying out there. This is basically the story. Then you get thrown into some other mishmash bunch of characters. They call people rusters and other weird things. And I just could not get attached to this world whatsoever. I just think they kind of threw a little bit too much at you, or I wish I knew what type of apocalypse this was going on. I didn't like it. They try to use this radio reference where it's like this one last satellite that's out there and you're trying to go to this safe. I don't know. I'm rambling on. This is definitely a miss. Don't pick this book up. I don't think a lot of people will enjoy it. So there's other books out there that you'll enjoy more. Book number 3 that we're talking about today is Primordial, Issue 3. Now, this book is done by Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino. Jeff Lemire has been on fire lately, and let me just tell you, Andrea Sorrentino's artwork in this book continues to shine as he tells the story in this book, especially when it comes to the animals, right? I mean, he tells you everything that they go through and kind of the pain that they're suffering through this story. And in this issue, it's a little bit less about the dog, Laika, and it's more about the primates and kind of what they went through to get to the place that they're at now. You learn about the two, the doctor and the other investigator or whatnot. They're trying to find out what happened to the animals. They had to go to some German, I guess, satellite. Maybe they could get a stronger signal there, but the KGB is after them, so it makes for a little bit more action on the human side of things. But in this issue, you wind up seeing the dog and the monkeys interact with each other, which was kind of cool, and they're just seeing all kinds of crazy stuff. They're in some weird other dimension stuff, and seeing them talk to each other was actually really nice because it's not like a full-on conversation, say like you and I would have. It's definitely very like primitive, basic language, and they know that they're in they know they're in a different place and they don't like change, but they know that change is coming, but they somewhat like this change. And this is kind of where they end up at the end of the issue, and you're like, oh wow. And you're kind of like scratching your head going, where are these animals going? Where are they at? Like, you want to know that as the reader, and that's what keeps you wanting to read this, right? Because of the mystery aspect of it. And I'm very curious to see what the two humans in this book are going to find and where they went. So really great book. I definitely recommend Primordial. You're never going to get disappointed with this. It is a quick read though. You could probably read these 3 issues in like maybe 5 minutes. Book number 4 that we're talking about today is Superman, Son of Kal-El. This is issue 5. Now, everybody knows at this point, John and Jay are sharing their first kiss with each other. That was already told. Now, whether you agree or disagree with this, I totally understand. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. I've been reading this story from the very start, issues 1 through 4, before any of this was announced. And for the most part, I've enjoyed this story. Issue 4 was a little bit of a letdown because I kind of seen this plot point just recently with Black Widow, with a supervillain giving innocent people powers, and then they overuse their powers and they burn out. It's kind of what we see in this issue, and it has to deal with John, right? But this is what all leads to this kiss. Now, the artwork in this book, in this issue, actually was pretty good. I love the facial expressions. I feel like it was better than the last issue. I think this is the regular artist on there. Facial expressions are good. Love seeing how strong he is by carrying a bridge with a whole bunch of vehicles on it. This issue's art was a lot better, actually, and I enjoyed watching it, or reading it, I should say, right? So what happens in this issue? So we found out in issue 4 that John's powers were enhanced because the bad guy gave him enhanced powers, and now he hears everything, he sees everything differently, and all of a sudden he hears all the people that need his help, and he feels like he has to go out there and help everybody, and he's doing, lifting bridges, saving people from cars, people drowning, stopping people in Africa and all kinds of stuff. and he's basically burning himself out, and he needs to stop, or he could possibly die here, because there's a couple of times where he actually kneeled to the ground, like for this instance right here, and he tried to fight it, and he couldn't. And then eventually what happens is he winds up at Jay's house, and they start talking. And you also find out Jay's power in this book as well. Jay is like he's like Kitty Pryde. He can phase through solid places, right? So I was like, oh, this is DC's version of Kitty Pryde. So that's who Jay is. So these guys, basically share a moment. He crashes on his couch. He wakes up 9 hours later, and they talk with each other, and they want to work with each other. And of course, at the end of the issue, they share that kiss with each other. And he goes, I look forward to saving the world with you. And it's like, oh, cool. Seriously. And there you get to see the beginning of a relationship of these two. Now, thing is how long will this relationship last? Is this an ongoing thing, or will Jay actually maybe die? Maybe his powers burn out. You never know. But of course, this solidifies that John is actually bisexual. And for me, that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. I said that from the beginning of this series, when this was announced, that John is his own character. Okay, whether you agree with that, that's fine. I totally understand that. But as a story perspective, when it came to him trying to save the world and his powers burning out and stuff, I thought it was kind of cool, and it was fine with me. So again, Superman, Son of Kal-El, I'll leave it up to you if you want to read this issue or not. Book number 5. This is Batman issue 117, the Fear State conclusion, and the last issue of James Tynion's run on Batman. So here we have, was it Jimenez that does the artwork? It's gorgeous, man. You can't deny it. The fight scenes are awesome. Facial expressions are great. This has been the highlight of this book throughout the entire time when you read it. Poison Ivy looks good. We get a point where Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn actually share a kiss with each other in this book as well. And that was nice. I mean, the artwork's great. And at times it's bright and vibrant on the highlights. And then it's dark and gloomy when it's in the dark moments, right? So this issue just wraps up everything that just happens. And throughout this entire series, it's just like happens all at once, all conveniently, where it just all ends. The Bat Team stops St. Walker. Batman wraps the utility belt around his wrist, and he punches him out. Miracle Molly has second thoughts about saving Gotham, making things start over, but Batman convinces that no, that's the wrong thing. Poison Ivy come together to make one whole Poison Ivy again, and Harley Quinn's and Pamela's relationship is intact once again. It's just like everything was wrapped up all nice and easy in a bow. No ramifications whatsoever. Series done, series over, run over, and that was that. I mean, that's all I can say about it. It is what it is. I felt that this was definitely a disappointing little story arc when it comes to Batman. I like the Joker War better. I like the build up to the new characters. I thought that was really creative, but this particular event just didn't do it for me. It was nothing special, nothing grand. You could have done maybe shorter story arcs and made it a little bit more impactful. Like, I would have loved to see more of just a Miracle Molly story arc, or a Gardner story arc, or another Punchline story arc instead of her being in prison. Something of that nature. I didn't need an event in all the other Bat books to tie into that to make it a solid run from Tynion. He did his little event with Joker War. We did not need another one. But nevertheless, if you've been reading Batman this whole time and Fear State, you must pick this up and you got to see what happens, right? So speaking of James Tynion, we got to talk about The Nice House on the Lake, okay? Now, just to let you guys know, I don't want to spoil this book for you. This is something that you really need to must read and experience it for yourself. Because when you get done reading this particular issue, you're going to be like, wow, I cannot believe that this just happened. The character work in this book is absolutely awesome. The secrets that you find out in this book are absolutely awesome. And the crappy thing is you're going to have to wait all the way to March to see how this thing continues. The artwork continues to be solid. Whenever you see Walter in this book, you always want to learn more about Walter and where he came from, who he is, and what's the story with him. And I can just tell you this without spoiling it. You're going to find out a lot, once again, on this whole situation that's going on. You kind of find out who Walter is, but not really. But you get a lot shown to you in this issue, and you're just like, crap, really? We gotta wait till March? But guys, definitely pick up your copy of Nice House on the Lake issue 6. You won't be disappointed. This series needs to be on TV. This needs to be a show, because I would love to see this thing as a show. Pick this book up. You won't be disappointed. Book number 7 that we're talking about today is The Amazing Spider-Man 78 Point Beyond. So I'm going to tell you this right off the bat. When it comes to the Dot Beyond issues, you're not going to have to read this to understand what's going on in Amazing Spider-Man right now. I mean, honestly, there's people right now that are not reading Amazing Spider-Man anyway with Ben Reilly in the book, but that's a whole other different story. If you are reading it, you don't have to read this. And this is kind of just a throwaway, fun little story that has to deal with Misty Knight and Colleen Wing. It was kind of cool. I think Jed MacKay did the best that he could with the story that he was given here. The artwork was okay, bright, vibrant colors when it comes to the characters. There's a lot of little action sequences. I love the characters' facial expressions in here. And basically, there was this mission that Maxine sends Colleen and Misty Knight to defeat this creature by the name of Obsidian Star. And it was kind of cool because they capture it in this like pocket universe and whatnot, and then they have to retrieve the energy source that's inside this creature. And Maxine was just like, well, don't you have this energy source? You know, don't you have anything for me after this fight? And they're kind of like, why should we? You know, you just wanted us to save the day, defeat the bad guys, right? And she's like, yeah. So this Maxine character is up to something much more than meets the eye, right? And so what happens is they take a sick day and whatnot, and they wind up taking this star and they bring it to, they bring it right here to, what's her name? I totally forgot her name. This Captain Marvel. I totally forgot her name. And I thought it was fun. But some of the dialogue and the humor in this book, it was actually really a lot of fun. You know, when they go to their boss and they go to Maxine and they're just like, well, we did this mission, so I'm calling out tomorrow. And the other one's just like, yeah, I'm taking 2 days for a mental health day. It's just funny because it was sarcastic. You know, it wasn't some agenda, you know, put there, oh, if you need off, you know, take mental health days. It was just a sarcastic tone. And it was kind of cool what they discovered and what they had to give to this version of Captain Marvel. So I thought it was really cool. Monica Rambeau is her name. That's what it is. So I thought it was a cool little issue. Again, you don't have to read it, but you know, I read anything with Spider-Man, right? Book number 8 we're talking about today, guys, is Robins. This is issue 1 of 6. The book that won the Round Robin tournament. Round Robin. I think it was all a setup to begin with, right? So this book is written by Tim Seeley, and the artwork in this book, I don't know, it just doesn't work for me. I don't like the characters on how like they try to make them like these anime style of comic book when it's just make it a regular comic book. Why are we trying so hard to make everything manga, right? I mean, I like manga. I have nothing against it, but this is just, it just doesn't work. Like, oh, it took me so out of the story. It wasn't even great. Like, there's anger issues here. We're throwing down a cup. Like, come on, dude, right? But let's drop the artwork. Let's see if the story overtakes this art, right? So what happens is kind of like in the first act of this comic book, we wind up getting to see our heroes do battle against these guys in these hoods. And there's this bomb going off. They stop the bomb, right? Next thing you wind up seeing is they're doing this Robin exercise where they go into an undisclosed building with no central air conditioning. And I feel like it's the right time to all talk with each other about why they became Robin and why do you think this was a good idea, okay? Now, as the writer here, I can understand why they did this, because if this is the first time that you're reading a Robin comic book, right, as a new reader, I'm looking at this on new reader eyes, this is a perfect entry point for you because it gives you a little bit of every Robin. It gives you a little bit of Damian, Tim, Dick, Stephanie. It gives you a little bit of all of them, Jason as well. So they're all in here, and you get to see a little bit and their feelings and how they feel, and you get to see all their different personalities. Damian, in my opinion, was the best character in here. You know, he's just some little sarcastic kid, you know, who takes like chocolate and pours it in his cereal and eats it. It's just funny, you know. And then what happens is some random guy comes through the door and he's trying to warn them of something, and he gets killed, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. And at the end, you wind up finding out that there's this person behind whatever is going to go on that claims to be the first Robin. I don't know who this is, and if you guys know, you let me know in the comments. Again, this is a spoiler. This is her right here. So she wears a Robin suit. She's in control of a little Robin, and she has a slingshot that kills people. That's it. That was the issue. So I was basically going to drop this book if it wasn't for this particular character right here, because who is she? Where did she come from? And does this story get a little bit better, right? I just felt like it was a big filler for me because I knew about all these Robins and where they came from, and over 3/4 of this book had to do with that particular story. But I get what they were going at. You got to introduce the characters, even though you've read them before. And then the cliffhanger comes at the end, right? So it'll be interesting to see where this book goes, how they tackle maybe each character individually as this story goes along. So I think I'll be in it for issue 2 and see what this new Robin has to offer. Is she going to be good? Is she going to be bad? I don't know. We'll see. All right, so the last book that we're talking about today is going to be Dark Ages issue 3, written by Tom Taylor. Ivan Coelho does the artwork in this book. I think up to this point, this is my favorite book of the week. Now, I still have more books that I need to read, but between this and House on the Lake, I don't know what's going to beat this. Artwork is pretty cool. Again, this kind of has a little bit of an anime feel, but not as much. I love the colors. I love all the action scenes in this book. And there's a lot that goes on in this book. So if you don't want to be spoiled, again, just, pause it or whatever it is, or read your issue. This book has a little bit of a focal point when it comes to Johnny Storm in here. And what happens is in the last issue, we witnessed Tony Stark winds up going missing, okay? And he went to go investigate what Apocalypse was doing. And we found out that Magneto is creating electricity, trying to resurrect that EMP monster or whatnot. And the reason how our heroes found out what was going on is because Laura and Gabby came into the scene. They weren't there the night before. They have the scent, and they realized that Tony Stark didn't go with Captain America, but went with Mystique. So as the issue continues, they wind up sending out Pietro out there, Quicksilver, to investigate what's going on. He's like, oh, I'll be in and out and whatnot, and I'll find out what's happening. Little did he know, his father is captured and he is in awe, and he tries to save his dad, and that just goes really wrong. He goes into the magnetic field. He gets sent backwards. Reed Richards is after him, and everybody is possessed by Purple Man to do Apocalypse's bidding. So they wind up sending out Quicksilver out there back home, and you can tell that he was not right. The heroes really realized it, and the next thing you know is Quicksilver goes apeshit, starts killing people, and the biggest death in this issue, and again, this is a spoiler, so you can pause it real quick, cover your ears, whatever it is, he winds up killing Johnny Storm. And he goes basically freaking supernova and just explodes and goes in ashes. But Sue Storm winds up finding out that Reed is still alive and possibly Franklin is still alive. So there is hope out there, right? This issue was so well done, man. I really enjoyed it. And the very last cliffhanger, I'm not going to show you, but it's going to put a smile on your face because it introduces a character that we know, right? In the comic book world, but we don't know, I guess, exactly who it is, right? And so I was like, oh man, that's freaking awesome. I can't wait, because you can't have an event without this particular character in it. So I really love this issue. It puts such a huge smile on my face. And when comics do that is the pure enjoyment of comic books right there, man. So good. So there you guys have it. There is this week's episode of After the Poll. I want to know in the comments below, what were your favorite comics so far that you read this week? And guys, as always, if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, don't forget to hit that bell. And guys, if you love the content, check out the content right here. Go ahead and click on it. If you missed my comic book day haul, click on that, and I'll leave some other playlists for you to check out as well. So guys, as always, keep buying, keep collecting, and most importantly, read those comic books. Guys, thank you so much. Take care.